What's up, guys? Welcome back to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Palantir Technologies, ticker symbol PLTR, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Thursday, February 29th. Alright guys, Palantir stock here today, down about 11 cents a share, minus 0.45%. Let's take a look here at this name, starting on the 1 minute chart. First of all, the name is down, 15-20 cents here after hours. But in case you're new here, if you are, please subscribe to the channel. I'm covering Palantir every single day. In case you're new here, take a look at this. Volume is so low, take after hours with a grain of salt if it's in your favor or if it's going against you. Alright, now taking a look at the 1 minute chart here, you guys know I scalp every day. I'm a scalp trader at heart, so just briefly each day as part of our ritual here, looking through Palantir, I like to just briefly look at the 1 minute chart for any intraday scalping opportunities to try to generate some revenue, okay, around a core position even. Now, I was watching Palantir kind of midday here, looking at this setup as a potential repeat offender, but it was a little bit too sloppy, and the channel width just wasn't really there, so I had to move on. But you can kind of see what I was getting. You know, I think the more you guys watch me take you through these setups, the more you understand what I'm looking for very specifically on these stocks with larger market caps. Not that I would call Palantir a mega cap by any means, because I think Palantir has a lot of room to grow long term, but this isn't a stock that I would say was so in play today, right? So when we're dealing with stocks like that, I get very specific about the setups I'm willing to take, and there's just, you know, a couple, maybe 2 or 3 in my playbook that I consider on these bigger stocks that aren't necessarily in play. That was one of them, just unfortunately for me, wasn't able to pull that out, at least for a high quality setup here today. So let's move on now. Let's get away from the intraday mentality and start going through our daily ritual, starting with the 5 minute chart and the volume profile. So what I like to do here, and you guys are probably getting the hang of this by now, what I like to do is look for the biggest, most obvious moves of the day, and then try to see if there was a substantial increase in volume during that move, and then any bounce or rejection fade. Away from that move, do we see volume decline, right? Because that combination gives us a good idea that a much larger size of the, a big sample size of the market agreed with the move that had more volume, the obvious move. So for me, you know, we know that we expect higher volume off the open, and to me, that's kind of a wash. So what I really am looking at, I think, you know, it was a lot of chop here today, but the most obvious move to me was like this upside move to intraday highs. Okay, and we did see a slight increase in volume. So, you know, I'm paying attention to that, but to be fair with you guys, I don't think it's substantial enough to, you know, feel super proud about that as a bull. Though, understand that we did see that. Okay, let's move on though. Let's start taking a look at levels that I'm going to be paying very close attention to as we head into tomorrow, because this became really relevant on the 30-minute chart here today. Now you can see that we clearly gave up that white line. The white line is the 50-period moving average, really simple, really basic, and very popular indicator. That's why I like to utilize it. Self-fulfilling prophecy, right? But understand that we gave it up in after hours as the volume began to fade. Okay, so, I mean, truthfully, I think the real test is going to be tomorrow at the open. But listen, if I'm a bull, I'm not necessarily just looking for a green day, because a 10-cent green day, as far as the 30-minute chart is concerned, it doesn't really change much. What I'm really ideally looking for, since we especially have that 50-period moving up toward 24.50, I would love to see a reclaim of that and a retest and start holding that in a manner like we were seeing here, but we never got that higher volume pull away that I would have been looking for out of that hole, ideally into the close. We just kind of like lower volume faded below after hours here. So bears, exact opposite for you guys. Any test of this upside level toward 24.50 on the 30-minute, that 50 period, you not only, of course, want to see that reject, but doing so on more volume is always better, in my opinion, when you have more volume supporting your thesis. Okay, so let's just get rid of that and move on here to the 4-hour chart. You can see that this one is also incredibly in play. We currently have that 50 period sitting right around just over 24, maybe 24.07. Listen, really simple here on the 4-hour chart as well. Any retest of that, bulls, I'm going to want to see a hard bounce, ideally on as much volume as possible away, right? And bears, looking at the 4-hour chart here tomorrow, what I think we would see is a lot of bears holding off on getting short, unless they already are, until we saw a break downside through and then the retest, and then you start seeing high volume on the retest and it fails. In that scenario, I really think we would see a lot of bears looking to get short or enter a bearish options position, whatever it may be. I think that's when we would see a lot of entries, and that could help push it lower, but it's a very specific scenario, and right now I think the bulls kind of have the upper hand as long as that can hold here on the 4 hour, but a break downside of that changes the game a little bit here. All right, let's move on now to the daily chart. Now, the daily chart, you can see that the moving averages are kind of not extraordinarily relevant. That nearest one is the 50, right around 1920. Okay, so now we're left with, what's the obvious story? Right, now yesterday, you can see that we were kind of in a very similar range because the stock itself was essentially a flat day. I mean, we've seen Palantir do much crazier things as of late. And remember here, this is the daily chart. It's not going to show after hours movement, but we're left in kind of the same boat that we were in yesterday, right? Ideally, 2450 is going to be a level that bulls are going to want to reclaim as soon as possible because that is proving to be a very short-term issue here. But inevitably, I think the short-term goal, but the bigger goal here in the short term, $25 a share is a huge psychological level. And even more importantly than that, just a claim of 25 doesn't really mean we're out of the woods because you have that recent top. I mean, it really topped out 4 times in a row, right around 25.50. So I think bulls, you know, it wouldn't be, I don't think, out of line to be feeling very good about things if the stock is able to get above 25.50 and stay there and kind of claim 25.50 as a support region, head up toward 26. That, to me, would be like kind of that short-term stepping out of the woods, taking one step out, 1 foot out in that scenario. I'd be very thrilled about that. But, I mean, we have 4 levels to get through before that can happen. 24.50, 25 is going to be a big one, and then I think ultimately the big test is going to be that 25.50 region. Bears, ideally, you wouldn't want to see any of that even get allowed to test. 24.50, you would love to just see a rejection, get down through 24, because look, your 24 has been a clear level as of late, acting as a psychological level on, 4 trading days out of 5 back then, a couple trading days ago here. So there's a little bit to think about here on the daily chart, but it's not complicated, right? And that's the way that I like it. I want as many things to look at as possible because that can open up some trading opportunities, trading off of psychological levels potentially. But truthfully, I want it to be simple where that anybody can really see it, even with not that much training looking at charts. Because the truth is, a lot of market participants aren't going to have that in-depth understanding, which kind of renders the in-depth understanding a little bit useless. Right, being that, I believe all this is really just a self-fulfilling prophecy, kind of a trick of psychology. All right, now let's take a look. What were the options traders thinking here today? Oh, man. Another day of heavy bias on Palantir. About 300,000 contracts traded total, 202,500 calls, 97,200 puts. So we are seeing a heavy call bias. The short-term speculators, not quite as overwhelmingly heavy, but still seeing a call side bias at 0 to 20 delta range. Almost 41,000 calls and just under 28,000 puts in that region. And, same story as we've pretty much been seeing on a lot of days as of late. Every single delta range is leaning to the call side, leading us to that pretty heavy overall call bias on the overall call put ratio. But listen, I mean, of course, that's no certainty. The options traders can, of course, be wrong, and this is just one factor of many, so make sure your risk is managed, as always. Holding and hoping it's not a strategy. All right, listen, if you got value out of this video, please subscribe to the channel. Again, I'm covering Palantir every single day. Head down to the comments section before you head out. I'm curious what your position is currently on Palantir and what your time frame is on that position. I did this yesterday, but I'm curious to hear anyone new. What do you got going on, or if you made any changes here today? Let me know, I'm curious. So I'll see you down there, and I'll see you also tomorrow.